Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about some of the overrated prospects in the 2023 NFL draft. And overrated is a bit of a harsh term. Really, these are guys that are just higher on the consensus big board than I have them on my actual big board. So without further ado, let's get in. But first, what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo. Just in case you did not know, so go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content as always. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse. Who are some of your overrated prospects in this class? And we're going to start with Travius, Hodges, Tomlinson, and I hate doing that. But because I don't think he's overrated. I love this guy. This is one of my... This is definitely a prospect that I very much like, but I have him a lot lower on my big board than the consensus. They have him instead of the top 100. He is literally prospect 150 for me, and in large part, it's because of the size. We kind of saw this play out with Darius Washington a few years ago coming out of TCU, where it was like, yeah, he's pretty much a slot-only guy. Then... He was like a third round grade for me, and he goes UDFA. So like me this year being a bit weary of that, it's like, okay, well, I very much like this prospect, but because he's 5'8", 178, I think he's probably going to fall down boards, and he largely is probably just a slot player. And it wasn't just that kind of like tanked the stock a little bit for me, but it was the combination of he was actually the most penalized corner in this cornerback class with 14 penalties this past year. And he's not the most consistent tackler. So it's not like he's a guy you could put in the box. He's a guy that, he's probably going to go in the slot, and you want him out in space. Like is going into this season, 19% career missed tackle rate. It was better this year at 11%, but still a guy that's going to miss a large amount of his tackles. Lacks the ideal length at 29-inch arms. So it's like there's a lot of things that kind of play into why I'm not higher on him than the consensus. Because let's be fair, man, I like this cat. He's actually the nephew of LT, so that's really cool. He's been a very good starter for TCU, who kind of ran into like injury concerns with Noah Daniels, unfortunately, and would have been a very fine corner duo. Luckily, they had Newton, who came in and was able to step up and help them largely to a national championship run, almost a run, not the actual trophy. But this guy's been very good over the course of his career. When you look at 10 pass breakups, 3 interceptions, and it just really sucks because this is a guy that, like, the movement skills are good. He's very fast, but he's probably going to end up lining in the slot. That's why I'm lower on him. Combined with some of the other that restricts him from being an actual box player, he's going to be after a guy that has to play away from the ball, so in the slot likely. Next player, I think I like a little less, Henry Toa, a guy that I'm not as so, I guess you would say, like, because I really do like THT. But Henry Toa, I'm just kind of like, meh, a guy that's a pretty darn good athlete on the field. Didn't test poorly, I will say. Didn't test poorly, just didn't test as fast as I thought he was. But definitely a cat that started the year much better than he finished it, because I just don't think he plays the linebacker position just as well as some of the other guys on this list. If you're not familiar with Henry Toa, he actually used to play at Tennessee for the first 2 seasons of his career, ended up transferring to Alabama and put in 2 solid seasons there. Like, the dude, good athlete, kind of a natural born leader, so you kind of like that. That'll probably get him pushed upwards. Probably why he's a consensus 91 and not where I have him, 175. And he's shown good ability as a blitzer, 14 pressures, 3 sacks this past season. However, man, he's just overall game just needs some polish. It really does. He takes bad angles. I've said this in past videos. He's in terms of being a tackler, he's the guy that will get in the block but constantly drives by the house. The guy that'll get in the vicinity of these ball carriers but often misses. That's just kind of what he is, whether he overruns the play or just gets stuck in traffic. 15% missed tackle rate in 2021. This past year, I believe it was better, but it was 14.4%. So you're looking at a guy that's on the bigger side of missed tackles. Not like where it's a big red flag, but pretty darn close to. Pretty darn close to. And as a pass rusher, he's more opportunistic, a guy that knows how to time his blitzes. He's very good with delayed blitzes, and once he sees it, he goes. So he's more opportunistic in that regard. It's not like he actually has a bevy of ways that he could actually rush the passer. You want to see more splash plays in coverage from this guy. He literally did nothing in coverage this year, and a guy that it just looks like the cogs are still turning in pass protection. It really does. Didn't really take that next step that you were kind of hoping, or at least I was kind of hoping, and that's why he's so low on my board. All right, next on the list, Tyler Scott out of Cincinnati, the wide receiver. And I actually really like this cat. It's just people are a hell of a lot higher on him than I am. He's 82 on the consensus board. I have him at 132. And he's wide receiver 15 for me, which isn't bad. Like, I get it. He's fast. He's explosive. But, like, he's got to be more than just that, right? Coming in at 5'10", 177. He was a 3-star recruit from the 2020 class. Played multiple positions in high school. Played basketball. Ran track. No kidding. The dude's fast. And didn't really he actually was a former running back when he was recruited. Didn't play significant starts his freshman year, but had 8 starts in 2021. He started all 11 games, I believe, in 2022. Missed one with an ankle injury, and he was just the big play threat, man. He really was. He made Bruce Feldman's freaks list for his speed and explosiveness, in addition to squatting 600 pounds 16 times. That's big. It's massive. Like, this dude actually got a legit lower half, which, like, tells me it's like, okay, he could eat a lot more contact than you would expect. He had 12 forced missed tackles this past season, so he's got return capabilities. I think he actually play on the outside, opposed to like some other smaller receivers that are just like designated to the slot. Like, he played 88% of the time on the outside this past season, and once he gets the ball in his hands, man, he just needs an angle. He just needs a corner. He's sudden, man. He can find daylight. He could go take it the distance. But being undersized, honestly, decent release package. But the size, the lack of physicality at the catch point shows up, and the hands are inconsistent. 11% drop rate is kind of big. So, like, again, we're in a class where the drop rate's actually pretty high for some of these receivers, but still 11%, that's pretty big. Nothing to scoff at. And, well, he's kind of a body catcher. He just kind of is. You telling me this guy was a former run back? No kidding. I could tell by the way he tries to catch the football. More of a simplistic route tree, so this guy's probably like a vertical only guy for now, at least early in his career. So I don't get the day 2 hype for him. I mean, you look at a guy like Jalen Hyatt, who just simply has better size, better hands, and it's like, yeah, I'd rather bet on that guy. I don't know, man. I don't. If you're a big fan of him, because I am, I like what he can be, but it's just I don't think he's there. But if you're a fan of his, tell me why. Let me know in the comment section below. On to another receiver, Keyshawn Abute at LSU, and some people will be like, "Oh, overrated." Well, yeah, this dude's still like on the consensus big board. He's still inside the top 100. You'd be like, "Well, he's a top 100 talent," and I would have said that a year ago. So let's get into my first complaint with Keyshawn Abute, and it's he had 2 ankle procedures on the same ankle prior to this season. And biggest fear when it comes to anything with the lower body is like, okay, this guy was known for being explosive. Is he going to be explosive? And then the season opens and he just doesn't look nearly as good, doesn't take that next step. Only had 500 yards on the season, wasn't a focal point of the offense. And like I said, didn't look nearly as explosive on tape. And then he goes to the combine and has a 29-inch vert. And if you didn't know, that's in the lower percentile. So like, bam, first red flag right there. Big concern. And then you look at the concern with the season opener where well, we had drops. Drops have been an issue with him. So bam, there's another red flag, 27 or 12.7% drop rate. But in the season opener, a couple of drops. One I thought was acceptable. One was, why aren't you looking for the ball? We're in the red zone. You should be looking for the ball quickly. But he wasn't a focal point of the offense. You saw his frustration on the sideline. And they go on to lose that game. He deletes everything off his social media that involved LSU. So suddenly we're thinking, oh, is he declaring early? Oh, is he transferring? Luckily, everything was able to get resolved. But you're like, okay, that's a little alarming. Typically, now we live in a day and age where someone scrubs anything from their team on their social media. It's like, uh-oh, bye Kyler. Uh-oh, bye Buddha. Cardinals, man. Phew. Rough go of it this season. Well, this year. But the other thing is you got the sex party scandal that happened at the end of the year where it was like he was going to return for his senior season. And then some stuff comes out about him and like recruitment and sex parties and stuff and something like that. I don't know. I didn't get too into it because I was like, oh, that's real weird. And then he declares, he's like, okay, well, screw this. I'm gone. And it's like, okay, this looks a little fishy. So like, you got to be like red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. Like this dude's just a walk-in red flag at the end of the day. And outside of his freshman and sophomore season, which they were good, they were solid, but you're waiting for that big dominant breakout year. And then the following year, we don't get that. We actually just get a bunch of, this isn't a player I thought he was coming into the year. And it's just like, why would I take that guy day 2? Why? I'd rather take him in the 4th or 5th round and bet on him just maybe being what we saw earlier in his collegiate career. And that's what it kind of comes down to for me. Why, like, seeing him still consist like in the top 100 on a consensus big board kind of frustrates me. Like, listen, I think the talent's still there. Hopefully he could get explosive, but I don't think that's the only feather in his cap. Like, I know this guy can create after the catch. He had 10 forced missed tackles this past season. And I think, I know he could get better, but he isn't nearly the level of prospect I was hoping for. And there are just huge question marks. Huge question marks. I'm not going to risk it. So that is, and on top, if we're going to talk about explosive, be like, well, just because he wasn't explosive in the explosion drills. Well, you look at the 40-yard time and the 10-yard split, 4.58, kind of not great. It's a higher number. It doesn't show you being explosive. So there is what I have to say about Keyshawn Abute. And then Noah Sewell, another guy who was thought of as once a first rounder over the year and hasn't had he didn't solve a lot of the issues we had, like a lot of the things we were hoping he'd get better at going into in this last season. Decides to declare coming in at 6'2", 224, and then he tests out like, okay, it's fine. Like his test numbers were fine, nothing special. He's not this freight train everyone thought he would be. Like dude's big, but like he's not explosive. It's not exactly like nimble. Like the change of direction is not great. He's just none of that. He really is. But he's young. He could get better at all those things. But like this year on the field, it's just like, okay, the missed tackle rate was slightly better. Like what were we talking about like the prior season? Okay, the prior 2 years. I don't have that number offhand, but like missed tackles were a huge thing and a lot of it has to do with how aggressive he is as a tackler. So often looking for the big hit rather than securing the tackle. We saw these with plays in the backfield, but the most alarming thing was like, so we'd have like 4 yards, what should be like a 4-yard loss turn into like a 6-yard gain or a 3-yard gain. And it's like, well, shucks. But the more alarming thing was in coverage, where he would miss a tackle and guys would take it for extra yards. It's like, listen, if you're not gonna be a guy that makes splash plays in coverage, which he's not, his coverage prowess not great, then you got to be a guy that minimizes the damage. Like, okay, if you're gonna go underneath and get 4 to 6 yards, those are the only 4 to 6 yards you're gonna be getting. You got to at least be that guy, because those guys, they can work in the NFL, and he's not. Dude's largely a work in progress. Largely, I view him a bit as a project. I wouldn't take a shot on him on day 2. And like I see people consistently do. Like even Alex from Hail Mary Sports, he'll come on the channel and he'll take noticeable in the 2nd round or the 3rd round. And I'm just like, there's other guys I'd rather take that shot on. Like DeMarvion Overshown, Dorian Williams, Ivan Pace, even Owen Popo, Cam Jones. I'd rather take that shot on because at least he's a sure tackler. Sure, his coverage prowess is a bit bah, but at least he's a sure tackler and he'll limit that. And he's a big run thumper. Like Noah Sewell, man, like I can't say that. So I got him at 131 currently on my big board. A lot of people still have him at 80, and I think it's like, that's a bit high. Next here, we got Jalen Duncan. He's been a favorite of mine in terms of I don't get why people love him so much. And we're talking about guys with like they're highly esteemed in the draft community. Talk about like the guys from the Draft Network are big ones. They're pretty darn high on Duncan. And I don't see I see Duncan very similarly to oh gosh, it was the Penn State guy that got drafted last year. It was like Rashad. I want to say it's not Weaver. Penn State, or was it Rashid? Rasheed Walker. There we go. Where Rasheed Walker was largely a project and that did really good against lesser competition. And then when it came to the big games against like Ohio State and Michigan, he was bad. And it's kind of the same for Jalen Duncan. His worst games have come against Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. And I think in pass protection, he's a work in progress. Like, look at his numbers here. As this season, 28 pressures, 7 sacks, 10 penalties. That ain't good. That ain't good. And it's not like I get people like they like his athleticism. 4.95, yeah, he's fast. Like this is a guy in the run game. He could, I think he could probably start immediately if you're cool with like maybe scheming some stuff to like not make him a big liability just because of what he can do in the run game. I think he's a very solid run blocker. He likes to go out and get after it. The movement skills are good. They're nice. But in pass protection, he drags his feet a lot. He doesn't necessarily know how or where to utilize his hands the best. And honestly, I think a lot of this is just the wheels just turning in his head. You know, the game needs to slow down in terms of in the passing game. In the run game, it's like, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to murder somebody. I'm going to bury him 6 feet under. And the NFL loves that. But in the passing game, total project right now. Like if you're a team that's like, you know, we're looking for these guys that could be phenomenal run blockers, that even if they are a work in progress in pass protection, we can work around that. Then cool, that's a guy probably you're going to take on day 2. But if you're a team that's like, no, we pass quite a bit and we would like some reliability out there, then you're looking at him as a project. It's just as simple as that. I got him at 113 on my big board. He's at 77 on the consensus, so it's not like it's huge drop off. Next, I got Andre Carter. There we go. Which I almost said Jalen Carter. Ooh, nah, I'm still high on that guy. But Andre Carter, which it's not a big drop off. We're still talking like back end of the third round area. So it's not like it's massively overrated, but obviously another guy that was once thought about to be a potential first round prospect. And it simply comes down to this guy needs to transform his body. He needs to get an NFL weight room, get on an NFL regimen, and he needs to get stronger. He needs to fill out his frame, and he just might be a guy that you won't really see much until year 3. Maybe that's when it clicks. Like in terms of just even getting on the field consistently, but like you won't be able to really tell what you have until the final years of his contract, his rookie deal. Because like there's some stuff there to like about him, man. Like the length is great. Let's pull up his stuff. 34-inch arms, 81-inch wingspan. Like his movement skills are insane. Look at the agility drills. The shuttle 429, the 3-cone 697. It's just you look at the explosive. They're the lower percentile. Ran a 4.93. That's really good. But the bench, I don't know why any like an agent or anybody let him do the bench. 11. That's terrible. I think that's the lowest number in this class next to BJ Thompson out of Stephen F. Austin, who, to be fair, I believe he's a former receiver, ain't he? All right, now I'm looking at a different prospect. Former tight end, so close enough. Former tight end, former jumbo receiver. But like with Carter, like you loved the numbers of 2021. This year it was a bit more double teamed and whatnot. But you go to the Senior Bowl and in run fit drills, you saw him struggle. So it's a guy you can't have on the field on running plays early on. So it's like just larger part, he's a developmental prospect. That's just what it is. And you're not going to take that guy high. That's why we've seen him fall down the consensus board. He's here at 72. I have him at 102, so 30 spots lower. Not that big of a difference when you consider you were talking day 2. All right, on to GerVonne Dexter. And people are going to be up in arms maybe with this one. He's 6'6", 310, and he tested out like a freak because athletically, this guy is extremely gifted. 6'6", 310. Ran 4.8, 40. He had 31 in the vert, 110 in the broad. His agility drills were fine. Like 3-cone was almost in the lower percentile. So it's like you like that. He's young. This guy's only going to get better. So it's like, what's there not to like about this cat? And, well, it's how he plays the game. 8.6% win rate is pretty awful. It's pretty awful. Again, he's a 5-star recruit. There's a pedigree there. But there's a lot he needs to get good at. I think he's a flexible athlete, a guy that can sink and get leverage. That's kind of rare for the position. But like, he needs to be able to sink consistently. Especially at 6'6", I know it's going to be harder for him, but he needs to be able to get that leverage or be able to get and maintain leverage. He can't play nearly as high as he normally does. He needs to add more pass rush and tools to his box. There are times where he needs to learn, hey, just stack and shed, dude. Stack and shed. He gets too busy being engaged with a block, and he's just a non-factor in the play. And he has the ability to be more disruptive. He just needs to learn to be that. There are also because we've seen high-end reps from him. That's the thing. Like, he's just pretty raw, so he's lower on my board, just because it's like, again, he's a guy that, he's a project. He's a project, so he's lower, but he's on the consensus board as this like second rounder, 57 overall, and I'm like, wow, I'm 47 spots lower. It's like, wow, that's starting to get into considerable change there. And it's like, listen, this dude moves exceptionally well from a 300 plus pounder. But there's guys that are a lot more put together, and you look at the athletic traits, they're great, but you're working with a guy that is largely raw, and because of that, he was largely ineffective at Florida. Like 25 pressures, 2 sacks this past season, 8% pass rush win rate. That's pretty darn bad. All right, and then finally on the list, it's Antonio Johnson, and I hate saying that. Because I still like him a lot, but I think where he's at on the consensus big board, 48, and what you're probably going to ask him to do in the NFL, I think are a bit different. You might be like, what do you mean by that? And it's like, well, in terms of what he's going to be asked, he's probably a box or a big slot guy, which value-wise, I don't think is top 50. I have him now at 76 on my big board, but he's still safety 3 for me. But top 50, I don't think I'd take him top 50 necessarily. There's just a whole lack of special plays. And you may be like, oh, what do you mean? Well, in coverage, the special plays are not there. I was going to say few and far between, but they're not even few. Like, he had like 1 pick last year. Like, this dude can't come downhill. Like, once he hits that trigger, man, watch out. It's just sometimes he's slow to hit that trigger. He's so disruptive behind the line of scrimmage, though. He's so good against the run game, and he's so good as a blitzer. He really, really is. Like, I feel like he's very untapped in that area. And it's just, again, what you're asking him to do, and the lack of splash plays and coverage. The catch rate was actually a bit high this year, as he kind of like started the year more of a traditional safety, then went back in the slot. I just have myself, like, again, the safety class, it's like I had the safety class, just me liking it less and less and less and less. And like, these guys are like, you got Brian Branch, who's like in my top 30. You got Sidney Brown, who's in my top 60, and then essentially Antonio Jones, who's in my top 75. So we're looking at like 3 safeties in my top 75. It's not good. Like, honestly, Quan Martin, I should have higher. Like, low-key, I think I'm going to move him up a big time on my list. Maybe. I'm tempted because I really love Quan Martin, man. I really, really do. But this ain't about him. It's about Johnson, and that's kind of where I'm at. I just don't think what he's going to do, or at least where he profiles in the NFL, is nearly as valuable as where he is on the consensus big board. But yeah, that's my take. And that's it for the video. Who are some of the guys you think are massively overrated in this class? I expect to see some of the quarterbacks down there. I can't wait. But until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.